Okay, welcome to the YouTube stream. This is the end of my Fortnite gaming, and I titled this stream, I Will Read You a Bedtime Story. The first option that I saw was the Three Little Pigs. Probably will end up reading that one. But if for some reason I get a bunch of people wanting me to read them a bedtime story on YouTube, maybe we'll do a little vote for it. If there's one story in particular that you guys really want. Or this won't work and I'll just read it to a few people. We're about to find out. It was a good run, TikTok. It was like a 10-hour stream on TikTok. Like 11-hour stream on YouTube. I will read you a bedtime story, YouTube chat. I'm saying goodnight to TikTok stream. I'm saying goodnight to Fortnite. YouTube, I will read you a bedtime story. I will read you a bedtime story. Yeah, I'm only gonna do this on YouTube. On TikTok? I'm gonna play like 1 or 2 rounds of this, I guess, and then I'm done. Never mind, I'm done. I can't even talk, bro. I can't even talk.
No, please. I always wanted to do. Says that 3 guinea pigs don't go to bed. What's gonna make me part of it?
Yeah. Today is Sunday. You're welcome. Good night, TikTok.
Yeah, Wesley is kind of famous. You know how?
Come to the YouTube stream if you want to come chat a little longer, or add me on Snapchat or no, just Snapchat. Snapchat or YouTube are the final 2 options here. All right?
Wes.
Yeah.
How much?
You're the first one? All right, W, care? 9 viewers. You don't have Snap? Oh, okay, okay. All right, let's go find this bedtime story, am I right?
Right now?
Yeah. Let's close this. Let's open up a website. I'm sure I can find the bedtime story real easy, am I right? It should be free. There better be a free version of the Three Little Pigs, unless you guys want me to read a different bedtime story. 3 Little Pigs. Nah, I'm not buying it. I'm not purchasing 3 Little Pigs. Give me the free. I want the free here it is. Short stories in classic literature. Are you ready? The 3 Little Pigs. Here we go, guys. I'm gonna read you a bedtime story. Yes?
Are you gonna lease the chat, like the Snapchat?
No.
Well, I just killed someone.
I'm not gonna leave the Snapchat. Peter Pan? Yay! 3 Little Pigs? Alright, I'll do 3 Little Pigs first, and then we'll do Peter Pan next. Okay. Here we go. I'm trying to sleep right now anyway. Alright, W, here we go. I'm reading y'all a bedtime story so you guys can go to sleep. The 3... Once upon a time, there was an old mother pig who had 3 little pigs and not enough food to feed them. So when they were old enough, she sent them out into the world to seek their fortunes. The first little pig was very lazy. He didn't want to work at all, and he built his house out of straw. Hello, Miles. Sassy says WTF. Goatee. The second little pig worked a little bit harder, but he was somewhat lazy too, and he built his house out of sticks. I'm reading you a bedtime story. Chat, I'm reading you a bedtime story. Then they sang and danced and played together the rest of the day. Oh, okay. Good night, chat. If you're falling asleep right now, that's the goal. The third little pig worked hard all day and built his house with bricks. It was a sturdy house, complete with a fine fireplace and a chimney. It looked like it could withstand the strongest winds. That thing is not falling down on a hurricane. The next day, a wolf happened to pass by the lane where the 3 little pigs lived, and he saw the straw house. You're welcome, Choco Bunny. And he smelled the pig inside. Uh-oh. He thought the pig would make a mighty fine meal, and his mouth began to water. Yo, the wolf was drooling, bro. He was hungry. So he knocked on the door and said, "Little pig, little pig, let me in, let me in." But the little pig saw the wolf's big paws through the keyhole, so he answered back, "No, no, no, not by the hairs on my chinny chin chin." Then the wolf showed his teeth and said, "Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house down." So he huffed, and he puffed, and he blew the house down. The wolf opened his jaws very wide and bit down as hard as he could. But the first little pig escaped and ran away to hide with the second little pig. Can we see your search history? This is not a time for that. I'm reading a bedtime story. The wolf continued down the lane and he passed by the second house made of sticks. And he saw the house and he smelled the pigs inside, and his mouth began to water as he thought about the fine dinner they would make. So he knocked on the door and said, little pigs, let me in, let me in." But the little pigs saw the wolf's pointy ears through the keyhole, so they answered back, "No, no, 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 not by the hairs on our chinny chin chin." Bro. So the wolf showed his teeth and said, "Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house down." So he huffed, and he puffed, and he blew the house down. The wolf was greedy, and he tried to catch both pigs at once. But he was too greedy and got neither of them. His big jaws clamped down on nothing but air, and the 2 little pigs scrambled away as fast as their little hooves would carry them. The wolf chased them down the lane and he almost caught them. But they made it to the brick house and slammed the door closed before the wolf could catch them. The three little pigs, they were very frightened. They knew the wolf wanted to eat them. And that was very, very true. The wolf had not eaten all day, and he had worked up a large appetite chasing the pigs around. And now he could smell all three of them inside, and he knew that the three little pigs would make a lovely feast. So the wolf knocked on the door and said, little pigs, let me in, let me in. But the little pig saw the wolf's narrow eyes through the keyhole. So they answered back, no, 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 not by the hairs on our chinny chin chin. So the wolf showed his teeth and said, then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house down. Well, he huffed, and he puffed. He puffed, and he huffed, and he huffed. Huffed, and he puffed, puffed, but he could not blow the house down. At last, he was so out of breath that he couldn't huff and he couldn't puff anymore. So he stopped to rest and thought a bit. But this was too much. The wolf danced about with rage and swore he would come down the chimney and eat up the little pigs for his supper. You have a question? Okay. But while he was climbing onto the roof, the little pig made up a blazing fire and put on a big pot full of water to boil. Then, just as the wolf was coming down the chimney, the little piggy pulled off the lid and plop! The wolf fell into the scalding, boiling hot water. And so the little piggy put on the cover again, boiled the wolf up, and the three little pigs ate the wolf for supper. The end. My day was great. Thank you for asking. Guys, did you know how that? I'm starting to wonder how this was allowed to be read to kids. The three little pigs. Well, that's what he's saying. He's like, this guy says, "How is this allowed? Why is this like a bedtime story for kids?" When it's like a wolf trying to eat some pigs, and the pigs eat the wolf. Another story? Okay, what story are we gonna read today or tonight? What is oh, Peter Pan was the next one suggested. Let's see. Peter Pan sounds like a long story, right? Peter Pan. I don't see it here. Is there a short one? Do you feel fine saying everything to a lawyer? Stop asking for my search history, bro. How is it for kids? Scroll up to my sis's number. What the? Okay. Short stories, that's what we need. 100 great short stories. No, close this. One summer night. Wait. Children's stories? Wait. Is there one that says like bedtime story? Is it children's story? Is there a bedtime story category? Hold up. I'll just do short stories. 100 great short stories. Okay, here we go. What's another short story we should read here? Babes in the Jungle? Should we read Babes in the Jungle? I'm no fun. I'm gonna take away your sigma. The Necklace? Guys, pick one of these short stories. The Model Millionaire? Wait, these are not, these are probably not going to be fun. I want to read the kid short stories for children. Here we go. That's it. Three Little Pigs. Okay, here we go. Little Red Riding Hood, the Velveteen Rabbit, Jack and the Beanstalk, the Tale of Peter Rabbit, the Elves and the Shoemaker, the Bogey Beast, Winnie the Pooh, My Father's Dragon, Cinderella, Snow White, Ricky Tikki Tavi, the tortoise and the hare, the gingerbread man, the little thief in the pantry, the ugly duckling, Thumbelina, One Summer Night, Aesop's Fables, Reluctant Dragon, When I Caught Wesley with a Minor. What the? Bro, what are you talking about? Jack and the Beanstalk? You got it. How about Little Red Riding Hood? Alright, Little Red Riding Hood or Jack and the Beanstalk, guys? Vote in the chat right now. Wait, I could do a little vote. Let me do a little poll. Start a poll. Jack or Red? Start poll. Answer the poll right now. Jack or Little Red Riding Hood or Jack and the Beanstalk? Peter Rabbit? Is Peter Rabbit something over here? Oh yeah, the Tale of Peter Rabbit. I could do the Tale of Peter Rabbit after. Vote right now. Little Red Riding Hood or Jack and the Beanstalk? That's what's happening first though. Hush, little Drake, bro. I don't know. It's 50-50 split. Jack and the Beanstalk and Little Red Riding Hood, 50-50. What do we do, chat? I need a fifth person to come in here and vote. Yo, Snapchat, what do I do? Jack and the Beanstalk or Little Red Riding Hood? It's a tie. Jack? Okay, Jack. Jack it is. Jack it is. I just heard him. You went through his... Okay, Jack and the Beanstalk. Here we go. Once upon a time, there lived a poor widow and her son Jack. One day, Jack's mother told him to sell their only cow. Jack went to the market, and on the way, he met a man who wanted to buy his cow. Jack asked, "What will you give me in return for my cow?" The man answered, "I will give you 5 magic beans." Wait, let me make this bigger. Jack took the magic beans and gave the man the cow, but when he reached home, Jack's mother was very angry. She said, "You fool, you took away your cow. He took away your cow and gave you some beans." She threw the beans out the window. Jack was very sad and went to sleep without dinner. That is sad. That's pretty sad. The next day, bro's bored. He wants a party. He doesn't want his bedtime story. Dan Bonsai's in the chat like, "I don't want a bedtime story. I want a party." Okay, well, I'm sorry. I'm reading a bedtime story. It's Jack and the Beanstalk. I already started. The next day, when Jack woke up in the morning and looked out of the window, he saw that a huge beanstalk had grown from his magic beans. Yes, tell me. I don't know. You just wake up and sometimes you just look out the window, bro. Yeah. From now on, I'm gonna throw beans out my window and hope for one day. Okay, he climbed up the beanstalk and reached a kingdom in the sky. There lived a giant and his wife. Jack went inside the house and found the giant's wife in the kitchen. Wait, how did it grow without water? They're magic beans. Jack said, Could you please give me something to eat? I am so hungry because he went to bed without food, right? No dinner. Bro's hungry. Now he's talking to a giant. The kind wife gave him giant bread and giant milk because they're giants. Okay. While he was eating and drinking, the giant the giant daddy came home.
Oh no.
The giant daddy was very big and looked very mad. Like he looks super scary. How did it connect to the castle? It's magic. It's magic beans. They're magic. Jack was terrified and went and hid inside. The giant daddy cried, "Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." But the wife said, "There is no boy in here." So the giant ate his food and then went to his room. He took out his sack of gold coins, counted them, and kept them aside. That giant got money. Then he went to sleep. The giant fell asleep. How is this loud? These are children's stories. Just accept it. In the night, Jack crept out of his hiding place, took one sack of gold coins and climbed down the beanstalk. How did he hold a giant sack of gold coins? Now that I don't know. That's a legit question. I've been a bad Sigma. At home, he gave the coins to his mother. His mother was very happy and they lived well for some time. Oh wow, a lot of time passed. Okay. All right. So, let's see. Jack climbed the beanstalk and went to the giant's house again eventually. Once again, Jack asked the giant's wife for food, but while he was eating, the giant daddy returned. Call it and say eating, said it? The number? Wait, hold up. Why does the giant look so ugly? Yeah, that's the giant mom. You see that? I think that's the giant mom, I think. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. Okay. So the giant so back to the story. Sometime he basically robbed the giant, took the gold coins. Him and his mom lived happy with some giant gold. They were living good. Okay. Fast forward, apparently the beanstalk is still there. Giant magic beanstalk. Jack climbs back up, asks the giant wife for food, and while he's eating, the giant daddy returns. Okay. Jack leapt up in fright and went and hid under the bed. The giant cried, "Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." But then the wife said, "There is no boy here." So the giant ate his food and went to his room. There, he took out a hen. He shouted, "Lay!" And then the hen laid a golden egg. When the giant fell asleep, Jack took the hen and climbed down the beanstalk. Jack's mother was very happy with him. Yo, Jack is a thief, bro. You're actually starting to get tired? What's that, brother? How are they both giants, but the wife is still so small compared to the husband? I don't think these are both giants. I'm not sure what this picture is showing. I think this is the giant wife and the mother. Like Jack's mother and then the giant wife. I think we're about to find out why this picture is here. Here we go. After some days, wait, I need to make this bigger. Here we go. After some days, I'm not tired till 3 a.m. Oh my gosh. After some days, Jack once again climbed the beanstalk and went to the giant's castle. For the third time, Jack met the giant's wife and asked for some food. Once again, the giant's wife gave him bread and milk. But while Jack was eating, the giant daddy came home. You were in Russia? Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread, cried the giant. The wife said, Don't be silly, there's no boy in here, said his wife. The giant had a magical harp that could play beautiful songs. While the giant slept, Jack took the harp and was about to leave, but suddenly the harp cried, Help, master! A boy is stealing me! The giant woke up and saw Jack with the harp. Furious, he ran after Jack, but Jack was too fast for the giant. Jack went down the beanstalk so fast and reached home. But the giant followed him down on the way down. Jack quickly ran inside his house, fetched an axe. He began to chop the beanstalk. The giant fell and died. Jack and his mother were now very rich, and they lived happily ever after. Okay, I don't know why this picture exists then. I don't know. I don't know. This picture is based on that story. I don't know why this picture is even here. I don't know. Okay. Let's close that. Okay, Little Red Riding Hood and the Tale of Peter Rabbit. And then it's nighty-night for me too. Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, there was a dear little girl who was loved by everyone who looked at her, but most of all by her grandmother, and there was nothing that she would not have given to the child. Once she gave her a little cap of red velvet, which suited her so well that she would never wear anything else. So she was always called Little Red Riding Hood. Yeah, it's a small fault. I don't know. Okay, one day her mother said to her, Come, Little Red Riding Hood, here is a piece of cake and a bottle of wine. Take them to your grandmother. She is ill and weak, and they will do her good. Set out before it gets hot, and when you are going, walk nicely and quietly, and do not run off the path, or you may fall and break the bottle, and then your grandmother will get nothing. And when you go into her room, don't forget to say, Good morning, and don't peep into every corner before you do it. If she's weak, why the hell is she drinking alcohol? I will take great care, said Little Red Riding Hood to her mother, and gave her hand on it. The grandmother lived out in the wood, half a league from the village. And just as Little Red Riding Hood entered the wood, a wolf met her. A wolf. Little Red Riding Hood did not know what a wicked creature he was, and was not at all afraid of him. Good day, Little Red Riding Hood, he said. Thank you kindly, Wolf, said Riding Hood, Little Red. Whither away so early, Little Red Riding Hood? To my grandmother's. This is some old English. Whither away so early? What have you got in your apron? Said the wolf. Cake and wine, said Little Red. Yesterday was baking day, So poor sick grandmother is to have something good to make her stronger. You're getting tired? Where does your grandmother live, Little Red Riding Hood? A good quarter of a league farther on in the wood. Her house stands under the 3 large oak trees. The nut trees are just below. You surely must know it, replied Little Red Riding Hood. The wolf thought this to himself. In his thoughts, he says, what a tender young creature. What a nice, plump mouthful. She'll be better to eat than the old woman. I must act craftily so as to catch them both. Those are his thoughts. Yeah, school is different today than it was back in the day. So he walked for a short time by the side of Little Red Riding Hood, and then he said, see, Little Red Riding Hood, how pretty the flowers are about here. Why do you not look around? I believe, too, that you do not hear how sweetly the little birds are singing. You walk gravely along, as if you were going to school, while everything else out here is in the wood is so merry. Little Red Riding Hood raised her eyes, and when she saw the sunbeams dancing here and there through the trees, and the pretty flowers growing everywhere, she thought, suppose I take my grandmother a fresh nosegay. That would please her too. It is so early in the day that I shall still get there in good time. And so she ran from the path into the wood to look for flowers. And wherever she had picked one, she fancied that she saw a still prettier one farther on, and she ran after it, and so got deeper and deeper into the wood, looking and picking fancy flowers for her grandmother. Meanwhile, the wolf ran straight to the grandmother's house, while Little Red Riding Hood was off picking flowers and knocked at the door. Who is there? Said the grandmother. Little Red Riding Hood, replied the wolf. She is bringing cake and wine. Open the door. Lift the latch, called out the grandmother. I am too weak and cannot get up. The wolf lifted the latch. The door sprang open, and without saying a word, he went straight to the grandmother's bed and devoured the grandmother. I don't know. This is just how the story goes. I'm sorry, Choco Bunny. Then he put on her clothes, dressed himself up in her grandmother's cap, laid himself in the bed, and drew the curtains. Oh no, it's gonna get worse. Little Red Riding Hood, however, had been running about picking flowers, and when she had gathered so many that she could carry no more, she remembered her grandmother and set out on the way to her. She was surprised to find the cottage door standing open, and when she went into the room, she had such a strange feeling that she said to herself, oh dear, how uneasy I feel today. And at other times, I like being with my grandmother so much. She called out, good morning, but received no answer. So she went to the bed and drew back the curtains. And there lay her grandmother with the cap pulled far over her face and looking very strange. Oh, grandmother, she said, what big ears you have. The better to hear you with, my child, was the reply. But, grandmother, what big eyes you have, she said. But, the bet, wait, the better to see you with, my dear. But grandmother, what large hands you have, the better to hug you with. Oh, but grandmother, what a terrible big mouth you have, the better to eat you with. And scarcely had the wolf said this, than with one bound he was out of the bed and swallowed up Little Red Riding Hood. It's a children's bed. It's a children's story. I'm sorry. It's a children's short story. I guess it's not a bedtime story. I'm sorry. It's a children's short story, but it doesn't mean it's a bedtime story. When the wolf had appeased his appetite, he lay down again in the bed and fell asleep and began to snore very loud. The huntsman was just passing by the house and thought to himself, how the old woman is snoring. I must just see if she wants anything. So he went into the room, and when he came to the bed, he saw that the wolf was lying in it. Do I find you here, you old sinner? He said. I have long sought for you, looked for you. Then just as he was going to fire at him, it occurred to him that the wolf might have devoured the grandmother and that she might still be saved. So he did not shoot, but took a pair of scissors and began to cut open the stomach of the sleeping wolf. When he had made 2 snips, he saw Little Red Riding Hood shining, and then he made 2 snips more, and the little girl sprang out crying, "Ah, how frightened I have been, how dark it was inside the wolf." And after that, the aged grandmother came out alive also, but scarcely able to breathe. Little Red Riding Hood, however, quickly fetched great stones with which they were filled, with which they filled the wolf's belly. And when he woke, he wanted to run away, but the stones were so heavy that he collapsed at once and fell dead. Then all 3 were delighted. The huntsman drew off the wolf's skin and went home with it. The, the grandmother ate the cake and drank the wine which Little Red Riding Hood had brought and revived. But Little Red Riding Hood thought to herself, as long as I live, I will never by myself leave the path to run into the wood when my mother has forbidden me to do so. It is also related that once when Little Red Riding Hood was again taking cakes to the old grandmother, another wolf spoke to her and tried to entice her from the path. Guys, is this the OG Little Red Riding Hood story? Is this like how the actual OG story goes? Little Red Riding Hood, however, was on her guard and went straight forward on her way and told her grandmother that she had met the wolf and that he had said good morning to her, but with such a wicked look in his eyes that if they had not been on the public road, she was certain he would have eaten her up. Well, said the grandmother, we will shut the door that he may not come in. She's cursed. Soon afterwards, the wolf knocked and cried, Open the door, grandmother. I am Little Red Riding Hood, and I am bringing you some cakes. But they did not speak, nor did they open the door. So the graybeard stole twice or thrice round the house, and at last jumped on the roof, intending to wait until Little Red Riding Hood went home in the evening, and then to steal after her and devour her in the darkness. But the grandmother saw what was in his thoughts. In front of the house was a great stone trough. So she said to the child, Take the pail, Little Red Riding Hood. I made some sausages yesterday, so carry the water in which I boiled them to the trough. Little Red Riding Hood, until the great trough was quite full. carried them. Then the smell of the sausages reached the wolf, and he sniffed and peeped down, and at last stretched out his neck so far that he could no longer keep his footing, and began to slip, and slipped down from the roof, straight into the great trough, and was drowned. But Little Red Riding Hood went joyously home, and no one ever did anything to harm her again. The end. Okay, here's the last story, guys. The Tale of Peter Rabbit. All right, I'm gonna close Snapchat since everyone literally went to sleep. Everyone in Snapchat left and went to sleep. Okay, yay, the Tale of Peter Rabbit. Let's go, W's. Okay. Once upon a time, there was 4 little rabbits, and their names were Flopsy and Mopsy and Cottontail and Peter. Who do you think that one is? Okay. They lived with their mother in a sandbank underneath the root of a very big fir tree. Now, my dears, said old Mrs. Rabbit one morning, you may go into the fields or down the lane, but don't go into McGregor's garden. Your father had an accident there. He was put in a pie by Mrs. Gregor. Mrs. McGregor, don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden. Now, run along and don't get into mischief. I am going out. Then, old Mrs. Rabbit took a basket and her umbrella to the baker's. She bought a loaf of brown bread and 5 currant buns. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, who were the good little bunnies, went down the lane to gather blackberries. But Peter, who was very naughty, ran straight away to Mr. McGregor's garden and squeezed under the gate. That's Peter. That's Peter going to Mr. McGregor's garden. Peter, you bad little bunny. You naughty little bunny, Peter. First, he ate some of the lettuces, French beans, and then he ate some radishes. And then, feeling rather sick, he went to look for some parsley, 'cause that'll make him feel better. But around the end of the cucumber frame, whom should he meet but Mr. McGregor? Mr. McGregor was on his hands and knees planting out young cabbages, but he jumped up and ran after Peter, waving a rake and calling out, "Stop, thief!" Peter was most dreadfully frightened. He rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten the way back to the gate. He panicked and ran all around. He lost one of his shoes among the cabbages, and the other shoe amongst the potatoes. After losing his shoes, he ran on 4 legs, and he went faster, so that I think he might have gotten away altogether if he had not, unfortunately, run into a gooseberry net and got caught by the large buttons on his jacket. It was a blue jacket with brass buttons, quite new. Peter gave himself up for lost and shed big tears, but his sobs were overheard by some friendly sparrows who flew to him in a great excitement and implored him to exert himself. Don't give up, Peter. Mr. McGregor came up with a sieve, which he intended to pop upon the top of Peter. But Peter wriggled out just in time, leaving his jacket behind him, and rushed into the tool shed. He jumped into a can. It would have been a beautiful thing to hide in if it had not if it had if it not had so much water in it. Mr. McGregor was quite sure that Peter was somewhere in the tool shed, perhaps hidden under a flower pot. He began to turn them over carefully, looking under each. Presently, Peter sneezed. Crusher! Mr. McGregor was after him in no time and tried to put his foot upon Peter, who jumped out of a window, upsetting 3 plants. The window was too small for Mr. McGregor to go through, and he was tired of running after Peter. And he went back to his work, planting the young cabbages. Peter sat down to rest. He was out of breath and trembling with fright, and he had not the least idea which way to go. Also, he was very damp with sitting in that can. After a time, he began to wander about, going lippity-lippity, not very fast, and looking all around. He found a door in a wall, but it was locked, and there was no room for a fat little rabbit to squeeze underneath. An old mouse was running in and out over the stone doorstep, carrying peas and beans to her family in the wood. And Peter asked her the way to the gate, but she had such a large pea in her mouth that she could not answer. She only shook her head at him, and Peter began to cry. Then he tried to find his way straight across the garden, but he became more and more puzzled. He's so confused, he's getting lost, and he's getting puzzled and crying. He's so sad. Presently, he came to a pond where Mr. McGregor filled his water cans. A white cat was staring at some goldfish. She sat very, very still, but now and then with the tip of her tail twitched as if it were alive. Peter thought it best to go away without speaking to her. He had heard about cats from his cousin, little Benjamin Bunny. He went back towards the tool shed, but suddenly, quite close to him, he heard the noise of a hoe. Scratch, 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 scratch. A hoe is a gardening tool, by the way. Peter scuttered underneath the bushes, but presently, as nothing happened, he came out and climbed upon a wheelbarrow and peeped over. The first thing he saw was Mr. McGregor hoeing on some onions. His back was turned towards Peter, and beyond him was the gate. Peter got down very quietly off the wheelbarrow and started running as fast as he could go to the gate along a straight walk behind some black currant bushes. Mr. McGregor caught the sight of him at the corner, but Peter did not care. He slipped under the gate and was safe at last in the wood outside the garden. Mr. McGregor hung up the little jacket and the shoes for a scarecrow to frighten the blackbirds. He took Peter Rabbit's coat and shoes as a scarecrow to frighten the birds. Peter never stopped running or looked behind him until he got home to the big fir tree. Peter made it home. He was so tired that he flopped down upon the nice soft sand on the floor of the rabbit hole and shut his eyes. His mother was busy cooking. She wondered what he had done with his clothes, because Peter had shoes and a coat. It was the second little jacket and a pair of shoes that Peter had lost in a fortnight. A fortnight is 2 nights. I am sorry to say that Peter was not very well during that evening. His mother put him to bed and made some chamomile tea. She gave a dose of it to Peter. 1 tablespoonful to be taken at bedtime. But Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail had bread and milk and blackberries for supper. The end. And that's the end of the tale of Peter Rabbit, the mischievous little bunny getting lost in McGregor's garden and almost getting caught and almost ending up in McGregor's wife's pie like his dad. But he didn't. He made it home safe. Flopsy, what is it? Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail were good little bunnies. They were not sick. They ate bread and milk and blackberries for supper, according to what their mom made. And W. The end.